everybody. Welcome to the March 13th City Council meeting. The time is now 7:05. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bowles.
Here.
Councilmember Beer.
Here.
Councilmember Vaterlas. Beckmeyer.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Vaterlas.
Here.
Mayor Big Stick.
Present. The City of Pacifica acknowledges that we occupy the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We honor the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples for their enduring commitment to Mother Earth. As the indigenous protectors of this land, in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. We affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. Councilmember Bowles, would you please lead us in a salute to the flag?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If anybody has not placed a parking pass in the dash of their vehicle, you can find them on the door at the base of the stairs. Just go ahead and bring one of those out and stick it on your dashboard so that you don't get ticketed. And with that, we'll move on to consent. Do any council members have an item they want to pull from consent? Hearing none, I'll go to public comment. I don't have any cards yet. If you want to speak on the consent calendar at all, please fill out a card in the back, bring it up, we'll call you. If you are watching from home, you can dial in at 650-898-6965, ID 383-609-442#. Press star 5 to raise your hand, and we will call on you. I know that some folks watch the live stream, so I'll give an extra minute for that. I don't see anyone in the audience coming up, so I'll give it a few more seconds to make sure there's no one on the line. No one on the line, so we'll close public comment. Do any council members have questions or comments for the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Consent calendar passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the public comment portion of the agenda. This portion of the agenda is available for the public to address the City Council on any issue that is not on the agenda. Any person wishing to address the Council shall be recognized by the Mayor during this time, provided, however, that only items not on the agenda for that meeting may be addressed. We'd prefer it if you make your remarks addressed to the full Council rather than any particular member. Council members shall not enter into debate with speakers under public comments on items not on the posted agenda. To give you some idea, if you ask us a question, we can't respond to you in real time. We're not going to converse with you in real time. Sometimes, however, depending on the nature of the comments or the questions we hear, we might ask for clarity or give a clarifying statement after the fact. A maximum time of 3 minutes will be allowed for any speaker. We recommend being nice. There's some legalese that works behind that, but bottom line, as long as you're kind, relatively kind, then there's no reason to get legal about it. So with that, I have one card from the public so far. If anyone else wishes to speak, please fill out a card in the back, bring it up, we'll call on you. And once again, if you're watching at home or on television with a live stream, please dial 650-898-6965, Conference ID 383-609-442#. Press *5 to raise your hand, and we'll call on you by the last 4 digits of your number. Randy Berend.
Good evening. Randy Barron, homeowner at 220 Minerva Avenue in Valleymar. I've been a Valleymar resident since 1985. I remember coming to Valleymar the first time to pick up my date, who then became my wife, and wondering, where the heck am I? All the trees, the horses, the creek, more trees. In fact, my little Datsun 240Z got stuck on tree roots going up to our house. It was, it was another world coming from the peninsula. When we purchased the property on Minerva, we were immediately struck by the Shire-like look of the street. It has these majestic cypress trees on it, shrouding the street, and the street dead ends into a hillside, a green hillside. It's really quite magical. This is what Valleymar all about. But this winter has exposed us to the other side of living in the Shire. We've had houses hit with large limbs, fences, landscaping damage, foundation issues from roots, street blocked by fallen limbs, and one car destroyed. All of these trees being city trees that this happened. These trees have become serious dangers to those who live on the street. Most of the houses are within the drip line of these trees, and it would just take one large limb to cause serious damage to both life and property. Since coming to Valleymar, I've personally witnessed over a half dozen houses get taken out by falling trees over the years. I remember the winter of 1994 specifically, when 2 houses were taken out on the same night. One of the houses was just 2 doors down from us on Berendos. And thankfully, the Fraser Thompson family, the father had taken the 4 kids up skiing. Otherwise, it would have been a tragedy that evening. The cypress trees on Minerva at the end of our street have already been cabled with steel cables. Some of those cables have snapped on top. The trees have plants growing out of the crotches, and PG&E has anchored their power lines to some of these trees, which brings in a whole new danger. When we get those big offshore winds in our Indian summer, September, October, I'm concerned about one of these limbs taking out a PG&E line, and with the hillside being in summer mode at that point, things could get out of hand very quickly. So I would, maybe tonight, I would even encourage you to drive down the street, come to Valleymar and walk down Minerva and hear those trees cracking and whistling, and it's ominous. But we, the residents of Minerva, are asking the city to remove these trees as soon as possible, because it's not whether, it's not when, it's if something more than a car will be taken out. I thank you for your time. Stay safe, stay dry tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Yeah.
I have no other cards at this time. I don't know if anyone from the audience would like to speak. If so, please fill out a card in the back, bring it up.
Mayor Big Stick, we have one call-in commenter.
Very good. And so, what are the last 4 digits of the?
Okay, I can't see them. Caller, I cannot see the last 4 digits. I see the last 3 are 769. Please state your name for the record.
So caller with the last 3 digits 769, please press *6 to unmute. Give it a moment after you press that. It takes a few seconds to kick in. Please state the full name for the record at the beginning of your comment, and at the 1-minute mark, I'll give you a warning.
Hi, this is Megan Gallagher. I am currently an intern.
We heard you at first. You seem to have fallen off.
Hi, good evening. My name is Megan Gallagher. I am currently an intern at *6. Sorry.
It's okay.
No worries. Do you want to start over?
Sorry, technical difficulties. Where was I? Sorry. I am currently an intern at Pacific Coast TV with my mentor, Martin Anaya, and I'm here to talk to you guys about our open house on April 15th, 1 to 5 p.m. No taxes. You can't pay taxes. And it's free to RSVP. Go to www.pacificcoast.tv. It's our 45th year of being your community multimedia center for 45 years. Our job is to ensure your voice is heard through communications technology. And if you come to our open house, you'll learn all sorts of awesome skills, have fun, food, meet other community members, talk, relax, get your hands-on opportunities, and no taxes since there's no tax day, which is awesome. And it's April 15th, 1 to 5 p.m. And to RSVP, go to www.pacificcoast.tv. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you letting us know. Elizabeth, do we have anyone else on the...
There are no other calls, Mayor.
Thank you very much. If there's no one else from the audience who wishes to speak, we'll close public comment and bring it back to council. Can I see some lights, please? Councilmember Bowles.
Council Communications. So I attended the Rotary's last meeting. My husband and I presented on best practices in construction for all-electric, energy-efficient homes. There was a little technical snafu the first time, so we got to do it twice, which was fun to get to know them. I attended the Leadership Council of San Mateo County training for new council members. This is an organization that trains aspiring leaders for companies and nonprofits and so forth in the county. And this was the first time they did training for council members. So this is a new program that they've instituted. I got a couple books. There's a new book for new council members that just got published this year. And they let us pick, I can pass these around. They let us pick others, and I picked one on high conflict. One of the morning sessions that I attended was about managing difficult conversations. And I'll just read a little paragraph on the back. It says, high conflict is what happens when discord distills into good versus evil feud, the kind with an us and a them. In this state, the normal rules of engagement no longer apply. The brain behaves differently. We feel increasingly certain of our own superiority and at the same time more and more mystified by the other side. So we had some good practice with each other playing sides of a particular issue, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about those things. We had goal setting, which was my first time, and that was a really good session on Friday that helped us get to know each other and understand each other and how we work and the information we need and how we process things. And I thought Saturday went really well. Brought a lot of ideas to the table, so many great comments from the public. Really appreciate everyone that came out for that. And let's see, I'm still meeting with the various department heads. So I met with the police in the last couple of weeks and just understanding how they work and the budget challenges. And I just want to say to the public that the police do use volunteer citizens to help them with some paperwork tasks, organizing evidence. You can even ride along in a car. And they also, if neighbors are interested in setting up a neighborhood watch program where you kind of help each other look out and take a little bit of the burden on our police for non-emergency things, that's something they're very willing to help set up in neighborhoods. I had a one-on-one with Kathleen Wentworth from the San Francisco Airport Roundtable, and she is a former pilot and was Jackie Spears' chief person working on airport noise. And we're going to be organizing a Noise 101 program, so kind of educating the public about airplane noise and the legal regulations and what we can change and what we can't. And then after that, she's agreed to put together a little session in Pacifica so we can really understand our issues here. So I'm really excited about that. I went to a meeting in Half Moon Bay after the Coastal Commission meeting that several other council members went to, and it was a great time to meet commissioners who were here for a hearing. Their meetings move up and down the coast, and they happen to be in Half Moon Bay, so that was a really nice opportunity to meet them and some of the staff. I went to a senior services lunch this week with Councilmember Vaderlas and Pete Shoemaker, and brought a pianist and another singer and did some wonderful singing and sing-alongs there. Just such a great community. It was the first time I've seen all the seniors gathering for lunch, and I'm just amazed by what we do and what the community that's brought together, through those programs. I went to a Peninsula Clean Energy Community Action group, and one of the things that we talked about there was a new heat pump water heater turnkey program. Often when people's water heaters go out, it's an emergency, and so you just call a plumber and they replace a gas appliance with another gas appliance. And we really want to be changing to electric as much as we can, much more efficient and without the methane. And what's wonderful about this program they're developing is that they'll actually, because it takes a few days, right, to get your permits and to maybe put in a new electrical outlet, they'll come and actually bring in a gas water heater, so you're not without water for a few days, and then they process all the permits and have contractors and so forth. So that's really exciting to see that coming together.
Christine, so that's a really cool program. Could you tell me how extensive is the rewiring the electrical in order to get one of those heat pump water heaters in?
It used to be that heat pump water heaters needed a 220 outlet, so that's more difficult for houses with small electrical panels, but there are new ones coming out now, or that are out now, that are just being tested that work on 110. So just having a regular outlet nearby would be enough. So yeah, great new technology coming.
Very cool.
And then yesterday I met with Josh Becker. I got to meet with him for the first time, and we're both nerdy climate people, and it was just really great to get to know him. So we talked about climate bills and some of the things he's working on, and also housing bills. And he's one of the co-sponsors now of SB 4, which is the Yes in God's Backyard to allow churches to develop affordable housing. And a couple of concerns I raised with him is that, I'm really excited about the program overall, but so usually affordable housing wants to be near public transportation. And here there's an exception if you just have one car share as part of a development, which doesn't seem like, that would be enough to, help the people who couldn't afford a car or to deal with the traffic issues, if there's no public transportation there. And then just making sure that CEQA review, if there's hazards, and so forth, it stays in, because basically the rule says if it meets the zoning, then there's no other CEQA or approvals. It's just approved very quickly. So could be a little dangerous in some of the high fire areas and landslide areas. And then on RENA, he's trying to learn and figure out kind of what cities think about what the state is forcing upon us and potentially how he can push back. So anyway, that was great. Oh, and a meeting, tomorrow's the Pacific Beach Coalition meeting, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to go because of the Manor overcrossing. But in talking to Mary, we realized that she actually has a conflict on the day of that meeting. She's the alternate, so we might need a new alternate, whoever is available on the second Tuesdays. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Who's next? Councilmember Battlehouse.
Okay. We had a special meeting and interviewed applicants for commissions and committees. I went to a Smart Coast, California meeting where they had a woman from Coastal Commission spoke, and also an attorney who works on projects up and down the coast. And Smart Coast used to be a realtor program, and now it's totally separate, and it's a nonprofit organization, totally separate from the realtors. I went to Ryan Marquez's going away party and goal setting 2 days. I went to the Terra Nova Sports fundraiser at the Moose Lodge, all you can eat crab. And after that, I went to another thing. That was after goal setting. I went to Pacifica Trivia at Pedro Point Brewery, which was put on by Pacifica locals, and Christine was there. They normally said they have normally 6 people, but they got it out there, and there were about 34 people there. We came in 4th, so we didn't even. I went to the senior lunch, and that was fun, and it was nice to hear. I was surprised that Pete Schumacher was very, it was great, his singing, and the woman who came with him. The City and County Association of Governments legislative meeting, we met for the first time in person in San Carlos. Of course, it was the day when the trees were falling and couldn't drive on Skyline, and of course, it was a mess for the first day. We talked about the current legislative items, which very few have been approved so far. But the City and County Association of Governments regular meeting, we were awarded $200,000 for the Safe Routes to School program. And then that was on their consent, and then on their agenda was $900,000. And that's for the Paloma overcrossing. And that was unanimously approved. And they did actually get up and say that Pacifica, or the coast side, barely gets the funding that they have. I almost stood up and cheered when they said that. But also, we had a discussion about fiber. And they're doing fiber down, of course, the whole bay side. And they were excited that they were adding the north, which was Daly City and Brisbane, and nothing over here. So, of course, I spoke again about that. But also, one of the other council members said, hey, wait a minute. I was on a project to bring fiber into Pacifica because we thought it was the best place to take fiber. And I know that AT&T has some fiber, but this was to set up fiber for the roads so that we could put up signboards, and the signboards could be changed in a minute with the fiber. And also the signals could be, they could sync the signals, and if there's a fire truck coming, then they can change the signals on the other side so that people stop, which could save a lot of lives, and it would be a great, so they said they would really look into Pacifica for fiber. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Beer.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Let's see, where do I start? I want to thank Mike O'Neill for sending us something about the FEMA funding deadline on March 16th. So please, if you haven't applied for the FEMA funding for this last round of emergency storms we had, please do that as soon as you can, because the deadline's on March 16th. Past couple weeks have been difficult for me, so I want to thank my council members for understanding when I had issues in my house, my little family. So thank you for that. I had to miss the committee and commission interviews, but I did read through all of the everything, the whole packet. But it really is so much nicer to see them in person. So I'm sad that I missed the interviews, because that's how I get to know people. It's one thing to look on the paper, but anyway, so I am happy to vote tonight. Goal setting was great, both days. Yeah, really impressed with how much work we got through, and I'm looking forward to the next session where we can really put some strategies down and see what we can plan out for the next many years. I did attend the PRC's board meeting, and I was quiet, and I didn't have my camera on, but our mayor was there, so he was the one who stood in, so thank you so much for that, Tiger. You're wonderful. The Peninsula Division of California League of Cities would like to invite you to, wait, I'm reading it. Oh, no, I just lost it. Okay, give me a minute and I'll find it. It's a conversation about the housing element. So as soon as I can pull it back up on my phone, which I hate doing when people are like watching, isn't that horrible when you like, I had it and now it's gone? And so anyway, when I pull it back up, I will share the information because it's with MTC and HCD, and it's next Wednesday at noon. So look, I already knew all that, so that's pretty good. Whew, it's been a rough couple weeks for Mary over here. Megan, the awesome intern from PCT, I know who you are, and I'm so proud of you. You did such a great job, so thank you so much. It was great to hear your voice, and I hope you are as proud as I am.
Thank you, Councilmember Beer. Councilmember Beckmeyer.
I promise I won't speak as long as I did last time. Don't have as long a list, but the individual items were long in duration themselves. So our committee and commission interviews happened the night after our council meeting. And then the night after that, and before I go on, the committee and commission interviews are always a really positive thing. It's very exciting to see the breadth of people across town who are applying for these positions. And I'm talking people who've been in town for 20 or more years to people who've been in town for 1 year or less. It's a really interesting cross-section and skill sets, and it's just a really great process. The night after that was a Beautification Advisory Committee meeting. There will be information, I keep saying this, but I really mean it. There really will be information coming forward about the Beautification Awards. They did vote on that for a residential project and for a commercial project, so that's exciting. And there were to have been 2 work days down in Palmetto. The first one, though, was to have been last Saturday and got pulled because of the weather. So there's another one coming up on the 25th of March. It will coincide with the Caltrans Clean Up California initiative, which runs for 10 days. And so we were able to get that item on the map for Pacifica. And I know Cabrillo School is doing something, and there's probably lots of other events happening during that time. On the 2nd, the next day, Sunset Ridge Read Aloud Day, which is just a great experience. It's so fun to read and be a public figure with the kids, and just, I enjoyed it a lot. And then the next 2 days, the 3rd and 4th, were council goal setting, which everyone was at, including our staff. Really, really good amount of time spent and well spent, I think. We had 2 different facilitators. One was more a team-building session on Friday, attended by a member of the public. And then Saturday, several members of the public were there, and that was at the community center, and we did more of a strategic planning approach, looking at where we're headed in the next 5 to 10 years down the road. And there will be another session coming up soon. In the evening, early April in the evening, to finalize all that. The weekend, the next day, I met with constituents in Pedro Point and Sharp Park, both on the same day, so that was both ends of town. And then the next thing I did, that was again a long period of time, but very well spent, was attended the Coastal Commission meeting on the 8th of March. And it was held at the Oceano Hotel down the coast from us in Half Moon Bay. One of the intriguing items on that agenda was the short-term rental item for the city of Half Moon Bay. Their approach has been different than ours, but it was interesting to note many of the same concerns and issues. So it was very interesting to watch that process and see that work through the commission. As Councilmember Bowles mentioned, there was a reception, there was a tour of the Pillar Point Harbor West Trail Living Shoreline Project. And if you want to go check this out, you have to go like you're going to go to Mavericks. And there's a parking lot at the end of the curved road. Well, that's where the project was put in. And what it had to do with was an eroding path that was, because while it's a protected bay, it's different than, the harbor, it's different than our shoreline here, right out here. In that sense, it was, erosion. There was erosion coming from the water lapping and water coming down the hill draining. And a very interesting process of installing cobble under the ground, and then lots of sand that they had to dredge out of another part of the harbor, and it was convenient they could move it right there. And it's the harbor master, I guess he is, Mr. Pruitt, was very, he said, with the weather we've had, he thought if it was ever going to go out, it would have happened over this last time, and it didn't. And so it's a very good project. The path is nice and wide. Councilmember Bowles can tell you about walking the path. I can't, because I haven't gone all the way down the whole path, but it's really, really very nice. And then there was a brief reception at Old Princeton Landing afterward, which was, there was food, but I didn't eat any of it. I think there were sliders. I don't know. I was so busy jabbering with everyone that I didn't eat food at all. It was just a great opportunity to do some networking with Coastal Commission staff and commissioners and other electeds. The city manager was able to come down for a little bit of it too, and it was great. We saw Lynn Adams there and some folks from Pedro Point, and so it was good. It was a nice time. That's it.
Councilmember Beer.
Yeah, thank you, Tiger. So I found the information. The Peninsula Division, California League of Cities Peninsula Division, I'm on the executive committee, and would like to invite you to a hour-long webinar beyond the housing element with resources, ideas, and lessons for what's next. Participate in a detailed presentation from MTC about the sixth-cycle housing element and how many cities have submitted, what plans have been adopted, what does all this mean. It's going to be just an hour, but it's going to be a jam-packed hour with the MTC and HCD both presenting. So please join on March 22nd at noon. And I had city manager already forward you that information, so that would be great if you could show up, so thank you. And then, silly me, forgot all about our youth summit that we're having on Saturday at Ingrid B. Lacey from 11 to 2, all youth-led workshops, and we're gonna have youth-led focus groups, and we're gonna have a live podcast and a TikTok corner. It's gonna be great. Come on out.
Thank you very much. As always, my thoughts are with Ukraine. I'll elaborate more on a different occasion. I attended the commission and committee assignment interviews with my fellow council people. I was the liaison for the Pacifica Resource Center meeting that they have every other month. They're just about fully staffed, which was great news. They're underway implementing their updated strategic plan. One bit of news was that lately, largely, their pantry shelves are bare. So if anyone has interest in donating food to the Pacifica Resource Center, it would be very, very welcome at this time, especially things that are basically meal in a can, such as stew is a really good one. Peanut butter is helpful. It's an easy protein source. And even staples such as rice and beans, which usually they're flush with. Right now they need in abundance. So if anyone feels like donating food, please do so. A lot of people could be helped by that. And the annual fundraising event for the Pacifica Resource Center, their Palmapalooza, will finally be in person for the first time since the pandemic, and that's going to be on September 30th. More information will be coming soon, along with information about their annual Mother's Day card fundraiser, of which I'm personally a fan, and I know a lot of other people are too. They should be releasing that information soon. I attended the goodbye breakfast for City Engineer Ryan Marquez. It was well attended, lots of good food, and I was really sad to see him leaving our staff, but wish him all the best of luck because I know he'll be a great success. After that, I went up to Sunset Ridge for the Read Across America Day. I had the opportunity to read The Sneetches by Dr. Seuss to Ms. Mooney's kindergarten class. I imagine none of them are watching this, but absolutely reading to those kindergartners is about as good as it gets, I think, in public life. So I was really enjoyed doing that. On Friday the 3rd, we had our team building for goal setting, followed by our strategic planning the next day. There will be more to come. We'll have a follow-up session in April to hammer out what our work plan for the coming year will be and what the full strategic model yields in terms of long-term planning. So after that, I kind of had a Coastal Commission week, and I'd been chomping at the bit to get to know coastal commissioners better going into my new role. And it was recommended to me by one of Josh Becker's staffers that maybe I should have a chat with Charles Lester, which was very informative in terms of giving me background on some of the history of Coastal Commission. And then I got to attend the meeting 2 days later in Half Moon Bay. I was delighted that I could just drive down the road and be there. And rather than introducing myself by email awkwardly, introduce myself at the podium awkwardly and go from there. Some of the revelations I took from that meeting was that the Coastal Commission, if they had their druthers, would be a lot more involved in seeing more affordable housing developed along the coast. And the streamlined process that initially was in the Coastal Act was taken out by what's called the Mellow Bill in 1981. And so it's interesting to see the efforts being made on the state level to hopefully re-enable them to help communities with the affordable housing component of their housing elements. Like us, they have blessed low staffing levels compared to what ideally they'd have, and so it was interesting watching their process and thinking about ours at home, which is not so dissimilar. And then, of course, I paid attention with keen interest as they were having their Half Moon Bay short-term rental discussion. Initially, the Coastal Commission staff had recommended to the Commission that they allow 100 days for unhosted short-term rentals, when the city of Half Moon Bay, if they had had their druthers, it would have been 60 days allowed for unhosted short-term rentals. And by the end of a very thorough discussion from the Coastal Commissioners, they actually did allow Half Moon Bay to scale it back to 60 days. So as short-term rentals are a huge hot-button topic in our community, and we have the very visceral experience of watching our housing being scaled back, It gave me hope that when our cap goes in front of Coastal Commission, hopefully it'll go through, but we'll see what that looks like when we get there. And then afterward, I was able to meet with various members of the Coastal Commission staff, along with Coastal Commission members. Got to enjoy that tour of the Pillar Point Harbor project, my fellow council members Beckmeyer and Bowles. I especially got to know one of the newer commissioners, Paloma Aguirre, who is the mayor of Imperial Beach, and she's the newly elected mayor of Imperial Beach at large. So it was fun connecting with her and trading stories and deepening relationships, which to me is very important going forward. The number two takeaways that I took from that, along with, well, I'll backtrack for a moment. I went in thinking it might be nice to have a little bit more of a personal review with Kate Hucklebridge, who's their new director. And simultaneous, Councilmember Beckmeyer was having a conversation with a staff member when I walked in the room. And so it seemed like an opportune moment to connect with both staffs. It kind of happened organically, otherwise normally we would have been more deliberative about it. But we had a very nice meeting today with their staffs, and I was able to take two things away from that meeting we had, which is one, our staff actually works really well with them. And it was good to see that communication firsthand and understand what that looks like close up. And two, the Coastal Commission staff is not as rigid as having never met any of them or seen their processes one might have suspected. So it was good to see that going forward our staffs will be working together on complex issues, especially the LCP. And they'll come back to us and let us know how it's going. A major takeaway was essentially some of the communication breaks down when they feel like they need more direction, and so they might need some more direction, so they'll come back to us if they do. Today I got to enjoy a housing element briefing with Councilmember Bowles in preparation for the joint study session. That'll be happening next Tuesday. And I wanted to piggyback on Councilmember Beer's message about the deadline for FEMA assistance coming down the pike on March 16th. If you wish to apply for a loan, please go to disasterloanassistance.sba.gov or dial 1-800-659-2955 if you wish to get in for one of those FEMA assistance grants. And I'm looking forward to the OSPAC meeting I get to attend on Wednesday. That's all from me. Staff?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, Kevin Woodhouse, City Manager. Several communications, some have already been mentioned in part. First, I just want to start with our incoming storm tonight and throughout tomorrow and tomorrow night. Notable predicted very high winds, so we'll have a repeat of, continuing to deal with probably downed trees and power lines, rain as well, and encouraging folks to stay safe and stay in if they can. On that note, we had to make the decision that tomorrow night's Manor Overcrossing community meeting that was scheduled here in person at the City Council chambers is going to be canceled, postponed to a future date to be determined, because we don't want, it's just not going to work to have encouraging people to come out and drive in the middle of a very large windstorm. So we are putting the word out as widely as possible in this short time to announce that cancellation. It's posted down in front of the chambers as well, but everyone please help spread the word that that meeting is canceled tomorrow evening, and everyone stay tuned for when we're going to reschedule that. As the mayor mentioned, next Tuesday we have the housing element joint study session with the Planning Commission and the City Council here at the council chambers, 6 p.m. Looking forward to that conversation. And then the final communication is that on the consent calendar was the termination of the pandemic emergency. So I just want to pause and sort of repeat that. The termination of the COVID emergency was approved on the consent calendar, and as we know, that's happened in the state and the county as well. One of the details about that is that we will be transitioning at the March 27th City Council meeting to a hybrid Zoom format for our meetings. And there's certain restrictions related to that, but as far as it relates to public comment, our audio phone-in system that we use will be transitioning to the telephone and Zoom format for audio comment. So City Clerk Coffey and team will be putting all of that information out as part of the agenda, how that's going to work, and we'll update our screens that show the methods for that as well. But that's an exciting transition. And I will say that I think in the last year, the Zoom capabilities have come a long way, and we're able to implement this first phase, kind of a pilot phase, so everyone should be patient with our new technology as we implement it. But we will be implementing it without a lot of new expenses in the council chambers. Of course, we did recently put a lot of money into our audio system upgrades for the council chambers, which will help new microphones, et cetera. But we'll see how it goes, but that's March 27th transition to Zoom hybrid.
My fingers are going to be well crossed as we try the new technology, as the recent new technology has been interesting to experience. I don't know if y'all ever watched that old show, Get Smart, with the cone of silence. Anyway. This brings us to consideration item number 9, as we have no public hearings this evening. It's the notice of completion for the wastewater collection system smoke testing, fiscal year 22-23 project. Proposed action: move to adopt the resolution of the City Council of the City of Pacifica accepting the completion and directing the city manager to file notice of completion for the wastewater collection system smoke testing, fiscal year 2022-23 project. Staff report, please.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Lisa Peterson, Director of Public Works. With me here tonight is Eddie Pastrano. He is our collection systems manager. We also have Jess Bloom, who is the contractor who completed the work from Total Flow Construction. Additionally, I did want to mention that Maria Aguilar, Deputy Director of Public Works, I want to thank her for putting this presentation together. Unfortunately, she's sick, so she's not here tonight. So to give a little background on the project, as council knows, and we have talked with council a number of times about, the city collection system is susceptible to receiving large amounts of outside water, which we call I&I, or infiltration and inflow, into our storm water collection system. And of course, this can cause sanitary system overflow, so we want to prevent that. Infiltration is the groundwater that is entering the sewer pipes through holes, breaks, problems with the connections. Inflow is something that's surface stormwater that's getting in, let's say, through a manhole cover or through, a cap for the lateral clean out. In 2021, the collection system master plan did identify some areas that had high I&I. These areas included Lindemar, Park Pacifica, and Pedro Point. And of course, our recent storm events have highlighted the I&I issues that we have been having within the city. So of course, we wanted to more aggressively sort of look at some of these locations to see what we could do, and consequently came to the council and requested that they allow us to do the smoke testing in September of 2022, at which time the council did approve a contract for us to do that. And just quickly, the smoke testing project was put out for Lindemar, Park Pacifica, and Pedro Point. It was advertised in August. We received 5 bids for that project. The low bid was Total Flow. Total Flow was awarded that contract, as I just mentioned, by the council in September of 2022 for $182,632. And as soon as that contract was awarded, staff did put out a notice for the testing to all the residents who were going to be impacted approximately 2 weeks before. And then there was a 24 to 72-hour flyer notice that was distributed to residents in order to let them know that work was going to be happening, and that happened between September and November. And then Total Flow completed the draft report on November 22nd, 2022. So quickly, just to remind Council what the smoke testing is, this is a standard method of detecting defects in our sewer system and the connections, especially where we may be having stormwater getting into our sewer system. It is a non-toxic smoke that's blown throughout the sanitary sewer system, and it helps to, locate damage in the pipes, cracks, connections that are problematic, areas where stormwater may be entering the system, which is, of course, what we're trying to prevent. And then here's just some pictures you can see of smoke testing and where you might find that there is a defect. So one of these, you can see a manhole. If you're seeing this non-toxic smoke coming out of the manhole, there's some sort of connection issue there where of course, this would be surface water getting in. Would clean out a sewer lateral clean out, you would be seeing, again, that smoke coming out of the clean out. If you have a defective lateral, you might just see something coming out of somebody's lawn, the smoke coming out of the lawn, and you can see the defective main line picture there. When you're putting that smoke in there, if you have some sort of crack in that main line where you're getting groundwater into it, you may actually see some smoke coming out through a crack in the street. If somebody has their downspouts connected into the city's storm drain system, you will see something just like this picture where it looks like smoke is coming out of the gutter. And then, of course, also plumbing connections, you might see some of this smoke there, and that's when we know that there's a problem and that we need to address it. The results of the project were we came up with 33 areas where smoke returns were found. Of those, 12 of them were related to inflow, and 21 of those were related to infiltration. The majority of these were laterals, people's laterals, or they were related to the cleanouts that folks had. So we did have 2 that were related to city sewer manholes, so those are something that we're going to be getting to and trying to address. There were a couple that we still need to investigate a little more that looked like there were maybe some connection issues that weren't completely clear. Again, most of these were related to property owners, and so we will and have actually already been contacting these folks to give council information about that. We did send letters to the property owners and the occupants letting them know that, we found these smoke returns, explained to them what that was, told them that we would be sending them another letter, follow-up letter that explained the issue more clearly. And so that would be another letter that's going out to let them know specifically what was found. We just wanted to make sure we got information out to everybody before we took this to council, and it was going to take a little bit more time to get those more detailed letters put together. And again, as soon as the property owners are contacted, we will be working with them on resolution for this. One of the things that we did tell them is, for certain property owners, if they do have some defect in their sewer lateral, council may remember that over the last budget session, council increased the sewer lateral replacement program grant from $1,000 to $2,000 specifically to try to help folks in this type of situation with the understanding that smoke testing might be moving forward. So there is that opportunity for residents to use that. And of course, if there is due to an illegal connection into the sewer system where somebody has just connected their storm drain line into our sewer system or downspouts into the sewer system, then of course that's something that we would just need to ask them to disconnect it because we can't have people connecting directly in. Obviously, that's another major issue for I&I or infiltration and inflow. And then as far as the upcoming projects, we did mention that this was kind of a first phase just to see if there was, any, I would say, big smoking gun, so to speak. But anyway, we did find some issues. We didn't find anything, that was maybe an entire creek that was entering the system, maybe something that would have been nice for us to discover. But we are actually going and moving forward with this I&I project that's going to be in the lower Lindemar area that we have talked to council about. This is where we're going to be replacing approximately 16,000 lineal feet of the existing sewer main lines. And we are in the process of putting together the request for proposals for this. It should be put out next week. It was actually supposed to go out last Friday, but then, of course, all the storms hit. So we're following these storm events. We're hoping to get that out next week. It is anticipated that the design contract is going to be in place for this work by the end of May. So the recommendation tonight is that we are asking the council, of course, we gave you all this information about smoke testing, but the main ask tonight is to ask you to accept this resolution for completion of the project. And with that, we're available to answer any questions. And I have Eddie here, and Jeff is available as well. He's in the audience and can help answer questions about what was done related to the smoke testing.
Councilmember Bowles.
Is it possible, Lisa, for you to pull up packet page 103 that has the map? Or Sarah, I'm not sure who's.
Yes, I'll pull it up now.
Yeah, I've got it open.
Okay, I'll just wait for her to pull it up on the screen. First, I just want to ask, and thank you for the report, and it's so interesting, and the photos are interesting to see that weren't in the packet of, how you can see the smoke in the different places. I just wanted to ask, were you surprised that there weren't more places? I mean, given how much we've heard about the issues with I&I in this area, it seemed to me that 32 wasn't very many, and some of them were minor.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember Bowles. Of course, it's always best if we can find some, like I said, smoking gun.
Right.
It says, oh, wow, that's where it's all coming from. I mean, I think there are some limitations to smoke testing and discovering all the problems with the collection system. It is certainly something that we can have Jeff come up and discuss, related to maybe even other cities, because he does a number of those. You're not going to always get all of the problems, in the smoke testing, I would think, especially, and Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but what I understand too is if, maybe you have the bottom of your pipe has some cracks in it, that may be something that you're not going to get smoke, coming out of, especially if you have groundwater that's, been coming up and getting into that crack, during the wet season. And they do these testing in the dry season. But again, I'm happy to have Jeff come up and elaborate on that more if you like.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Total flow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was a little surprised we didn't find more, hearing what the problems were. But
Could you speak into the microphone a little bit more? Sorry, it's a little hard to hear you.
yes, I was a little surprised that we did not find more. Usually we find 2 or 3 catch basins or something like that. We did find one, and that one's going to need further investigation because the smoke kind of came to that delayed, so it's intertwined differently. But I believe that there are other issues when I'm looking at a lot of the cleanouts that we saw. Your standard cleanouts just are so old that they all have holes in all their covers, that they really need to be looked at and probably replaced, and also sealed around the inside. And it was pretty much all the cleanouts in the whole city. But that's the standard, and that's what you have. Plus, they did not have internal caps, and the idea behind not having internal caps is so if the main sewer line were to back up, we wanted it. Most cities have wanted the sewer line to burp outside of the house and not burp in the house, so they don't want to put a solid cap on that inner cleanout, so prevent infiltration from coming in. But they have some ideas on how they're going to work on that as a problem.
And are the cleanouts something that's the responsibility of the homeowner?
Yeah.
That's not on city property, right? Yeah. Okay.
And if I could also just point out for everybody what Jeff is talking about is on packet page 102 of the report. So what he's saying is that the cleanout caps are very old and they have holes in them, so they could actually be acting as drains. And they're throughout the city, maybe 1,000 of them.
Uh-huh.
And you could also see the inside that's not really sealed inside that Christie box. So if groundwater comes up in the wintertime, it normally does, water will just kind of leach into that. But
Okay.
that's going to give you a slow tail coming into the sewer system where the holes in the cover are going to give you a quick response.
Okay.
So based on flow monitoring, you can kind of tell what your problems are.
Okay, thank you. And just back to 103 for a second, Sarah, if you don't mind. So the neighborhood that you mentioned that the sewer laterals are, that you're starting a project soon, I think it's kind of that curved area. I can't point to it. Doesn't show any of these issues. But what I remember reading, I think, is that some of the main sewers are undersized. Is that right for the neighborhood? So it's not necessarily I&I, but just managing the water flow, or sewer flow in that area?
Yes, thank you for that question. I believe the main issue is I&I, and I would, ask Eddie if he's as familiar with this project. Unfortunately, Maria is the one who's most familiar with the project, and she's not here. But I believe that that there aren't too many, if any, that we're upsizing. Is that correct?
So, yes, thank you for that question. Most of the I&I was coming from the laterals, the private laterals. Our crew did go out right after the rainfall and then open up manholes, and we could see the neighborhoods that were just flowing, rainwater coming through. So we knew that there is a problem of I&I, just not, like we said, a big, contributor. We didn't find the jackpot, so to speak. But yes, it was just throughout the subdivision, there was I&I coming from each private lateral.
And so I think that, what we're talking about here is the collection system rehabilitation and replacement project that we're coming through and going to be redoing our main lines.
That will be upsized, but that's just because it's been needful to do that. They had already had plans to do that, and just so it could take more capacity. But yes, that section there was actually the section that we did go by, and Doug and myself went out there and looked, and they are I&I coming through those.
So we'll have to get back to you on exactly what's getting upsized, because I don't have that information right now because Maria isn't here, but we can get that information back to you.
Yeah, that's not related to this action item tonight. So thank you. I appreciate it.
A couple of these items were in townhouses, and townhouses they don't have their own separate laterals, each unit. So what happens in those cases?
So in those cases, we would have to be contacting probably the homeowners board, to have a conversation with them on how that is managed. Typically, I would think that would be managed by the board. So we'd be having conversations with them related to that.
Okay. So it could be multiple units are impacted.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other members, questions from council? I have one very brief question. The one comment letter we received had a procedural question in it, and I figured for my own elucidation it would be interesting to learn about this particular administrative function. Why is it that the project would remain open and staff would not be able to move forward with performing other smoke testing in other areas that have high I&I rates? Should we not adopt the resolution?
Yes, thank you for that question, Mayor. Basically, we're not going to move forward until we have one project closed out. Specifically, if there's questions or, concerns that the council is having related to how we're doing the smoke testing, if there's a reason we're not closing a project out, usually there's some sort of problem. So we don't want to move forward with another project and, be then also having those same problems.
Makes sense to me. Thank you. Now go to public comment. If anyone has anything they want to say, please fill out a yellow card. If you're in the audience, you can hop up now and make a comment. Not seeing anyone in the audience. If you're watching at home on the television or by live stream, please dial 650-898-6965, ID 383-609-442#, and press *5 to raise your hand. We'll call on you by the last at least three digits of your number and give you your time to speak. Not seeing anyone in the audience. I'm going to give it an extra moment for the live streamers. I know that they have that extra delay. Okay, so with that, we will close public comment and bring it back to council for further deliberation and/or a motion. What is the pleasure of the council? Councilmember Beer.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you for your work. I really appreciate it. And most of the questions I had were asked and answered, so thank you, Councilmember Bowles, for your questions. There was the one concern that I had was when you start to move forward with folks that you're going to be working hand in hand with solutions. And so I was really happy to hear that. That was going to be one of my questions. And then I think that's it. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll take the moment to echo Councilmember Beer's gratitude. Thank you very much for doing this work. Do we have a motion if no further comment? Yes. Never with the lights.
I know, because the lights are here, things are here.
Well, I saw that Christine wanted to
Okay,
also,
okay,
so.
Go ahead, Christine.
I haven't
Go
done
ahead.
this before. I move to adopt the resolution of the City Council of the City of Pacifica accepting completion and directing the city manager to file notice of completion for the wastewater collection system smoke testing for the year of 2022-2023 project.
Councilmember Vaterlaus.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you again, staff.
Thank you.
And thank you for humoring my sense of humor. It's rare we have an agenda this light, so I'm. Okay, so this brings us to item number 10, appointments to the Beautification Advisory Committee, Economic Development Committee, and Planning Commission. Proposed action, move to appoint applicants to Beautification Advisory Committee for 3 full terms set to expire March 2027. Move to appoint an applicant to the Economic Development Committee for 1 partial term set to expire October 23, and move to appoint applicants to the Planning Commission for 2 full terms set to expire March 2027. Staff report, please.
Council members, the committees and commissions for the Beautification Advisory Committee, Economic Development Committee, and Planning Commission, as stated by the mayor regarding the terms and the number of positions being recruited for, was opened and published in the Pacifica Tribune, as well as in the Connect with Pacifica weekly e-newsletter. And the city, in response, received applications for those, received 6 timely applications for the Beautification Advisory Committee, 2 timely applications for the Economic Development Committee, and 4 timely applications for the Planning Commission. 1 applicant for the Beautification Advisory Committee subsequently withdrew their application, resulting in 5 applicants for consideration for the Beautification Advisory Committee. The applicants were listed in the agenda packet for tonight for each of the city committees and commissions. Interviews were conducted by the city council at a special council meeting on February 28th with the applicants for these committees and commissions. And with that, tonight's agenda item is for the council members to discuss and deliberate on coming to a consensus on nominations for each of those committee and commission recruitments. With that, any questions? I'm here to answer for you.
Questions from council?
Sarah, could you do me a favor and scroll up on this particular view so we could see all of the names?
Thank you, Councilmember Beckmeyer. Any other questions from council?
Process? Oh, I didn't.
I figure we'd ask that one on the other side of public comment.
Okay.
So I'll open it up to public comment now. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? Do we have anyone on the phone line? Going once, going twice. We will close public comment now. Bring it back to council. And as Councilmember Vaterlaus had suggested, it seems like almost always there's a question that goes to city attorney as to how we should make the motion. So I'll start by asking that question of city attorney. Please just give us our options.
Well, generally, what the council has done in the past is sort of have, your deliberations, and then a council member will make a motion after hearing the deliberations, and the council can get an idea of where the council is going in terms of preferred candidates. But there's really no right way or wrong way other than we cannot do any secret balloting. So the discussion and the vote all needs to be done with all 5 of you on the dais.
And I'll just note for these discussions, the length of the terms are all the same for the open positions. So naming the applicants that to appoint just by name is sufficient.
Thank you very much. Council. Councilmember Beckmeyer.
I don't know if we're going to go through these in order as they appear on the agenda, but since beautification is on the screen right now, I would like to suggest that we reappoint Gail Bennett and Julie Gossage to the Beautification Advisory Committee. I've been working with this committee, and I know I've seen the work that they're doing and the way that that committee has come together in coalescing. One of the things that I remember asking a few times ago, I'm not sure how long Julie Gossage has been on the committee, if it's been it can't have been 4 years, however long she's been on. I remember asking Beautification Advisory Committee members, the timing of the meeting was such that it was right before we were going to do our interviews, and I said, is there anything in particular you're looking for? And one of the things that was loud and clear was a landscape architect, which she does have that qualification and is engaged in ongoing training. So I really have to put in a vote or an urgency for those two. And outside of that, I'll defer to council to bring up other names, but I just wanted to get that information out there.
I'd be happy to start the ball rolling in that department. I was really impressed. I was impressed with all the candidates, but in particular with Teresa Sulcer and actually Angela Perry, who backed out, which for me makes it very easy. I was really impressed with the background that Teresa Sulcer brought to the table. Again, it's not like we had bad candidates at all. That was the one that really stood up for my mind. Other thoughts or motions?
Well, I'll just echo what you just said, that please know that all the people who come out are incredibly qualified candidates all the time. We're so lucky to have such civically engaged people in our community, and that spots open up all the time. So if by chance you don't get chosen tonight, please come back again, because again, spots are always opening up, and there is not a bad choice. So it's really hard for us at times.
And it's nice to see so many applicants, because sometimes we only have the exact number of applicants for the positions. And
Or
even
even
though we
not.
interview everybody, and so we just place them in the positions, or we've occasionally not placed a person in a position and gone forward. So there is always that option.
I suppose I'll jump on if this is the right time to say it, but it's really, it's always a happy occasion when this many people show up to participate in their community. And I've said to each one of them during the session, please reapply. And that absolutely holds true. If you happen not to get this tonight on any given commission or committee, please reapply. We want you. We only have so many spots to fill. So discussion or a motion on beautification? I favor taking it one at a time. If there's no further discussion, I'll be happy to make a motion. I move we appoint Gail Bennett, Julie Gossage, and Teresa Sulcer to the Beautification Advisory Committee for the 3 full terms and expiring March 2027.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, please vote.
And the motion to appoint Bennett, Gossage, and Sulcer to the Beautification Advisory Committee passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. That brings us to Economic Development Committee. I know that for me it's difficult when a candidate doesn't show up for the interview knowing that they want the spot. I personally feel like I can't vote for that candidate without having met them. That being said, I don't mind kicking the can down the road if council doesn't feel strongly one way or the other. I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just saying that that's my MO.
I just want to add that Jennifer did want to be there, and she was stuck in traffic coming back from Sacramento, so it wasn't a lack of desire, but I found it difficult too, and I think both candidates offer really good skills. Again, I'd love to hear from those of you on the Economic Development Committee in terms of, whether there are certain skills that that you're really looking for.
Well, I'll just say about economic development, another example of a committee that is really coalescing well and working well together. There's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of exuberance and interest in digging into data, digging into creating events. The Blues and Brews event that happened is one example. So I feel like having someone who would be a good team player and work well with the team is the biggest thing. I don't have a takeaway from the committee that makes me feel like they want someone with this skill set per se.
Yeah, I feel like there's such a wide variety on the committee right now, and it's really nice because they represent so many different parts of the community. Yeah, so I have to agree with that. I think it's always good for someone who understands what it's like to be a business owner in town. I mean, that's always helpful, but not necessary, right? So it really is just about the willingness and, yeah, the commitment, right? We want someone who's willing and committed and ready to learn.
Plus, it is a partial term, so to me,
Very short.
yeah, October, the term will be up, so it's not really that long to, one way or the other.
Did you have any thoughts on that, Christine?
No, I mean, maybe given that, it makes more sense to appoint the person that we've met, knowing that the other can still apply again, and we'd have a chance to meet her soon.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And so I'll go ahead and move that we appoint L.J. Jones to the single term expiring October 2023 for the Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second, please vote.
The motion to appoint L.J. Jones to Economic Development Committee passes unanimously.
Last but not least, Planning Commission. And having served with Lauren Berman, who, in my observation, has been a fabulous chair, I'm only over eager to reappoint her.
I agree with that.
I'll second that.
I'll third that. She's also the only, civil engineer on our group and on the Planning Commission, and it's really helpful to have those skills to review the drawings and understand projects.
If we could have the visual show us the full
Thank
breadth
you.
of options, please. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Just a note on this visual, it says need 3, that's a typo, this is need 2.
Oh,
That's what I thought.
Caitlin is a friend of mine, and she's been, very active in the short-term rentals and really doing a lot of work to research the issues and look at what other cities have done, and she's super smart and well-spoken. My concern, and I actually spoke with her about this, is that we already have 2 planning commissioners in Sharp Park that had to recuse themselves from the Sharp Park specific plan, and I'm really concerned, because there are other projects coming up in the area that would take out too many commissioners, at this time, even though she'd be terrific.
yeah, she would be great. And I know when I spoke with her and said, there's a spot coming up, she was like right on it, so.
Yeah.
But I'd like to hear about the others.
Councilmember Vetterlaus.
And maybe we need to take that into consideration in the future, make a map of where everyone is located so we don't have huge issues with
Right.
overlaps like this, because it could cause a problem having 3 people in the same neighborhood. So I do think we need to take that into consideration, or have a list with us of the other commissioners and where they're located.
Can I ask the city attorney a question on that? So, city attorney, if we wanted to factor that into our deliberations, would we need to advertise it as we're seeking a candidate not in Sharp Park?
No.
Okay.
No, the determination on who you are going to appoint is totally within the discretion of the council. And so long as your discretion is not used arbitrarily or capriciously, there should be no issue. And the fact that you're going to have several council members, I'm exaggerating, but, on the same block, that certainly could present a problem in terms of conflicts. So that's a reasonable consideration to take into account.
Yeah.
When you're making appointments.
So if we had an issue in Sharp Park, I think we might have to see 3 recusals, conceivably. Is that what you're saying, Sue? Yeah, out of 7. So in that case, all 4 would have to agree for a motion, for a project to move forward or a decision to stand.
Well, and in order to hear the item.
To even hear the item and then to act on the item.
Correct.
And often there are not 7, at least when I was on planning, there were not 7 present often, correct? Okay.
And really, there should be,
There
right?
should be.
And I've noticed that in the past, that there haven't been as many present, especially during really important issues that have come up. I'm curious, I wonder if other cities use the districting. Do you know if any other cities use districting to get their committee and commissioners?
I have not heard about districting for commission appointments, but what I have seen in other communities where there are districts is they have each, and this would require a wholesale revamp of our code and everything, but what they have done for districts is they have had each district member, council member, appoint a planning commissioner with approval of the full council, and that's how they deal with districting. But I've never seen where it has been the commission appointees themselves who must be from a specific district.
Well,
That I have not seen.
That'll be a good part of our upcoming conversation one day.
1 year.
Councilmember Beer.
I already went, thanks.
Beckner.
Geography aside, I wanted to say that I thought Daniela Devine was a strong candidate as well. I thought her breadth of experience and really knowledge from the small business that they run and having worked with planning departments sort of on the other end, I felt like was a good background for the purposes for the project, for what we need in terms of planning commissioner. So that was another person I thought would be a great fit.
Agreed, and actually, given her background, that tipped me a little bit more in her direction over the other candidates. That and combined with the conversation about the realities of regionality, I think Daniela would be a very good addition to Planning Commission.
And Councilmember Bowles, you said you spoke with Caitlin about your concerns? That's good. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Daniela's experience, having gone through the process and even her, she expressed some frustrations, but, maybe those are some ideas that she can, bring back to try to improve our processes and helping educate homeowners and so forth as they go through would be helpful. I think she'd be very empathetic. And one of the questions we don't ask is like, do you read drawings? And not everybody does. And she does obviously as part of her work. And maybe you learn fast. I don't know. Maybe Tiger did.
Right, I was just going to say that.
I was going to say,
I don't think Tiger read drawings before.
I learned quickly how to read drawings, not the way you read them, I'm quite sure, but I'd like to think I served as a conduit between those who were as new as I am to it and those who actually know how to read a drawing. Councilmember Adderlaus.
I hate talking about people like this, but I did originally check Caitlin, but I think that with the difficulties with regions and not having enough members present, I think that would be a problem. So therefore, I will change that to Daniela. And I move that we put Lauren Berman and Daniela Devine onto the Planning Commission.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
The motion to appoint Berman and Devine to the Planning Commission passes unanimously.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. We're out at 8:35. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Meeting is
Marvelous.
adjourned.